Family, hold on. Okay, I'm one step away. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go. I hope everybody's been having a fantastic week. So glad to be back. Oh, let me cut that down. So glad to be back with you on this fantastic Thursday. If this is your first time here, this is Soul Swami Live. Thursday night we do book club. Um, on this channel we generally talk about all things healing, and we have shows Tuesday was generally our healing show, and Thursday night is our book club. And you can catch us on anything you feel comfortable with: YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. The choice is yours, however you feel. Um, Generally before every show, we do chakra cleansing. So this week we are on our heart chakra, continuing our heart chakra. If you was with us Thursday, then you already know that we started the heart chakra on Thursday. So the color for your heart chakra is green, hence the lighting. We like to include a little light therapy in our thing. So the color is green for your heart chakra. And the element is air. And it is good for your love, your compassion, your empathy, your kindness, and your feelings of acceptance, which is tough. All right, I appreciate the checkout. Thanks for joining for a second. This is book club, but some elements and things you want to deal with if you're into stones. Um, Emerald is a good stone because, of course, it's green. You think green stones. Jade is a good stone, and surprisingly, one of my favorites is rose quartz. I have a rose quartz stone in the shape of a heart. I'm showing you, but you can't see it, but it's actually the shape of a heart, and that's my pocket stone that I generally carry around in my pocket sometimes, or when I'm doing some work, some spiritual work, and I keep my love stone on me to stay grounded and reminded. So this week we are continuing reading our Makes Me Wanna Holla by Nathan McCall. It is, I don't know, I forgot where he's at. He's out of jail now. He's trying to get a job, and he's struggling a little bit trying to make that transition from spending what he did 3 years out of his 10-year sentence in jail back to society, and things are a little bit different for him. But before we do that, we do a little sound therapy as well, along with that light therapy stuff we talk about. And we do our bowl. Tonight I'm not gonna kill you with the with the ukulele. No, I've been playing the ukulele last week and the week before. My spirit wanted the rain stick tonight, so we're gonna do the rain stick. And I was being lazy, so we in our glasses tonight too. But we always start with our big bowl, and after that we do some a visualization, a breath exercise, and a visualization, which is excellent, excellent, excellent for the heart chakra, especially since the element is air. look, I'll give you a pass. It's funny because I was about to make a joke. And I was going to say, I'll give you a pass. I know you're getting old, right? But then I thought back to when we met. I was like, I remember when I met you, I used to think you were so young. Much younger than me. Now we both just old as dirt. Okay, congratulations, grandbaby. Woo, 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 woo. You with the grandbaby? Where you at? How many grandbabies is that now? That is exciting. Woo, woo. All right. Time goes by fast, girl. Ah, bless. I think you got the most out of everybody I know. I think I know somebody with 2. And I know a couple people with 2. Surprisingly, Ali only got 2. Sexy queen. I know that's right, Sean. Thanks for joining. Double God number. Bless you. Listen, I'm telling you, right? The fact that you are a grandmother is a sobering thought. And I met them girls when they was little girls. And it's still funny. Sasha, I know that's right. What's up? Thanks. Listen, I know it's funny because they don't even really realize how much I know about them. Like, girl, I done known y'all for ever. How old? How old? How old were your babies when I met them? You know my favorite story. Mama, it's a man in your room. What is that man doing in there? So that's great. Congratulations. I know if you just coming in, we just having side conversations right now. It happens a lot. Yeah, be a little more loose and relaxed, but we congratulating one of the Soul family. They got another grandbaby in the world. Whoop whoop whoop. That boy, Lord have mercy. You got to tell your girls to do some more. They're gonna have to get on it. So it won't just be one boy. Yeah, I know, right? And how old is she now? She was 2 or 3. Go ahead, see. Let's talk about how old we are. She was 2 or 3. That's a bad thing. We was grown then. So we just more years in grown. It wasn't like we were 17. Okay, that ain't so bad. It's bad, but it ain't so bad. It's bad, but it ain't so bad. God bless. 17, 18 years. That's a long time. Congratulations. You done been through the struggle. You want to do 678 again? How you got me called it 678? You want to do 369, 478, or 444? Hey, congratulations. You gotta start taking pictures with them and sending out Christmas cards to everybody. Just you and your grandbabies. You gotta dive all the way into that grandma position. You do a good job though. 369. That's what I thought too. So same page. Again, family, oh no. I don't know. Hey Libby, you not having no, is it glitching? I can't tell. Are we doing good? Oh, this is Instagram. Instagram always a mess. Like it give Androids a hard time, and Instagram always a mess. I low key just want to be like, I don't want to stream from Instagram anyway. Instagram got some haters. They don't show enough support. Everybody else, you get strangers and randoms and stuff like that. Instagram, I don't know. Especially for the feed to always, it's always an issue. I never know if it's working. So I apologize if you on Instagram you have a hard time. It gives Android a hard time. Is that money? Hey, I'm balling. I got $5 in my pocket. All right, family. So it's your first time here. We also do a breathing exercise, and it's suggested by one of the soul family. We're gonna do 469. I mean, oh no, 478. I'm all messed up. You got me all thrown off. Ever since that 369. But no, we do 369. Forget about it. So 478 breathing exercise is you breathe in for a 4 count, you hold for a 7 count, and you breathe out for an 8 count. This is a great breathing exercise to do for heart chakra because it really does allow you to focus on your breathing and control of the air, an element, right? Don't forget, it's air outside of you, and you naturally produce air as well. So with every breath in, okay, fantastic. So it is just Instagram. Like I couldn't looking at, I got Facebook right here and I got TikTok right here, not glitching like it was before. So I've been closing that app ever since, and we hadn't had that problem since I closed the app. So find yourself a comfortable place, and I will do the count for you. And you just take some time and focus on your breathing. Yo, I should practice ASMR and start talking like so on this count. It's going to be 4, 7, 8. On my count of 3, We'll start with the 4 count. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Last time, family. Breathe in 4, 2, 3, 4. Hold 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And for the visualization, really, we're going to keep it simple. Imagine yourself in some outdoor area that gives you comfort and delight. Whether you're standing at a beach, whether you're in the mountain, whether it be a field of flowers, or your screened-in back porch. Just imagine yourself just sitting there. And as you sit there, you feel the breeze begin to blow across your skin. You feel it across your forehead and across your nose. You feel the breeze blow across the back of your neck. You feel it just gently kiss up against your lips. And as the breeze continues to blow, you feel an energy within that breeze. An energy of healing, of comfort. With every blow of that wind, you feel an energy of peace, an energy of love. As the wind continues to blow, you feel acceptance and grounding. And just let that wind blow across you and bring in an energy that is comfortable and healing for you. I want you to repeat these affirmations after me. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. I follow the voice of my heart. I love myself and others. I deserve to be loved. I forgive others easily. My heart is fully open, loving, and pure. I follow the voice of my heart. All right. Now enjoy that. Breathe for a little bit. Take some time and slowly come out of the visualization as we begin to continue our Thursday night book club, Makes Me Wanna Holla by Nathan McCall. Yeah, okay, that's right. We on chapter 25. He ain't getting no job. Well, he did work a little job, but whatnot. Chapter 25, he starts at Norfolk State. Norfolk State University. Do your thing. Enjoy. Congratulations again. One day I'm an inmate looking out at life through a prison fence. The next day I'm a student walking around a college campus. Is this a crazy world or what? I took a few summer courses and started school full time in the fall of 1978. It felt good to be back in college. It was a concrete move to work at building a decent future. Norfolk State was frenzied rush of faces: black, blue black, dark brown, caramel, tan, beige, damn near white, and everywhere bright colored shirts and buku blue jeans. Blue jeans scuttled down the sidewalks and across the grassy fields. Blue jeans hurriedly entered and exiting buildings. Blue jeans standing in long, really long lines. Faded and rich blue jeans, pimping and swaying, laughing, shouting, bunched in fraternity and sorority clusters, gearing up for high walking and shit talking step shows. Being in school and on scholarship at Norfolk State made me feel like I was really getting a second shot. Walking around campus near Corpu Avenue, I remembered that one night 5 years earlier, shell shocked and I had robbed several Norfolk State students just across the street. It was hard to believe that this was the same campus where I nearly jumped from a balcony of a student union building while tripping on a bit of acid called orange sunshine. I was back with direction and purpose this time. It would be head down. What? It would be head down and plow forward. No time for foolishness, no room for play. When I started school, I was broke like a big dog. Dr. Cagwell, a department head who helped me get the scholarship, knew I was low on funds. He got me a cafeteria meal ticket and arranged for me to get a $50 per week job delivering campus newspapers. For me, that $50 was like pig feet to a pork lover. After coming off a penitentiary gig, making 35 cents a day, $50 a week was a hell of a raise. Every Thursday, I drove Yvette Chevrolet Camaro to the printer in Suffolk to pick up bundles of student newspapers. I got up around 4 a.m. on Fridays and dropped off the papers at various places on campus. Then I'd go back home, shower, and head to classes. I worked extra hard in school, especially on the student newspaper, the Spartan Echo. Students on the staff were friendly enough. Some became friends, but I socialized with a few of them. I couldn't relate. They were in the block shows, fraternity pledging, and school dances, and none of that interested me. So I do my classwork, write my news stories, chat a while, and dash. The school's journalism department was a tiny collection of rooms tucked away on the third floor of the administration building. The J School had a stingy budget and the staff of about 5 professors and teachers. Norfolk State in general had a share of financial problems, but students there got the kind of down home, one on one nurturing that blacks at big white universities miss out on. Years later, when I crossed over to the white mainstream, I learned to deeply appreciate Norfolk State. I saw that a lot of those blacks who had degrees from prestigious white universities didn't know whether they were coming or going. I've seen that too. And their sense is not Their sense of blackness can be limited on what they think black is and isn't. They didn't know who they were or what time it was. The difference at black schools such as Norfolk State was that the professors didn't pull all the punches with the students about what we were up against. They didn't try to pretend that everything was hunky dory in the mainstream world we were preparing for. We learned about our specific fields of study, but a lot of the teaching revolved around what it would take to deal with the white man's turf. There were several teachers in our department who seriously honed in on a thing like that. One was Harry Williams, a chain-smoking student advisor on loan from the Virginia Pilot Ledger Star, the city's local newspaper. He was determined that no students of his would pass into the white work world head scratching and half stepping. He was harder on us than white folks could ever be. A tall, dark, heavyset man with huge eyeballs that constantly rolled around in his 10-gallon head. He hit us hard on the brain-busting exams and made us do long working hours in the student newspaper office. He came down hard on lazy folks and quitters. When a dude got mad one day and threatened to leave school and search for newspaper work with no degree, Harry Williams shouted at him like he was that boy's daddy. "I'd like to see you quit. You'll go out there and get eaten alive. This is a credential-oriented society. Without a degree, you'll spend the rest of your life fighting to be the king of Nigger Mountain." That's crazy. But there was one beef I had with Norfolk State and schools like it. They prepared us to endure a system everyone acknowledged was stacked against us. Professors in the J school and the other departments talked all the time about strategies students had to use to survive in those racist media. It struck me as loony that they were actually being taught ways to endure racism. Crazy. I thought we should be learning how to attack that shit. It made me wonder where I should ever be considering going into the white man system at all. Some professors said that to make it in the white stream in mainstream America, we had to assimilate, to study the white man and learn his rules. One teacher told me, "Do what you must to blend in." That's terrible. Take up golf. Learn to schmooze. Do anything you need to do to get accepted into the club. When recruiters came to Norfolk State to interview us, the assimilationist professors made sure who wore the right clothes, dark blues, grays, and blacks. One teacher lent me her copy of her book and said she was a vital tool. What? Dress for success. I gave that book back to her and asked, "What's all this got to do with me being able to do my job?" She looked at me like I was a child who didn't understand the complexities of the grown-up world. Then she said, "You might as well adjust yourself to the idea that these are the kind of things you have to do to make it." Man, I thought, I ain't got to do shit but stay black and die. Her kind of thinking undermined the idea that there were other options left open to block. Options such as starting and running newspapers on our own. If it was as if some of our professors didn't even want to consider that. I debated with them sometimes about things like that and talked with a few students about doing it for ourselves. Some listened and shared that dream, but others got glazed over looks like they'd gone to another world. I understood. They were the descendants of slaves, still caught up in a serious dependency trip. All anybody they'd known had ever done was work for white folks their entire life. College educated or not, these students can conceive anything else. Although Norfolk State is located outside of my hometown, there were times when I thought it brought reminders of my past, like the encounter with Shirley, who grew up with me at Cavalier Manor. Leaving campus late one evening, I ran into Shirley, who I hadn't seen in years. Growing up, Shirley had been set up on several trains by different groups of guys. The sight of her brought back images of the summer day when the fellas and I lured her into a friend's parents' house, then passed her around like cheap wine and sent her back into the scorching heat. When I saw Shirley on campus, she was practicing with the band near the football field. She was older than me, too old, I thought, to be in band, but there she was, marching and twirling her clarinet like an 18-year-old. It was like she was trying to recapture some of the youthful innocence that had been stripped away. Seeing her as an adult made me think about all the psychic damage we may have done to her. And here she was, trying to rebound and make a new life for herself, just like me. I wonder which of us faced the tougher task. When our eyes met, hers dropped to the ground in shame, look that said, "He knows my secret." A wave of guilt passed through me, followed by an impulse to rush and try to apologize. I walked over to her. "Hi, Shirley, how you doing?" "Fine." She smiled cautiously and looked away again. I wondered, how can she ever trust men again? How can she move her life forward with such painful past? I wanted to say more than an empty hello. I wanted to let her know that I was struggling to break from my past too, and wanted to encourage her to keep trying, but her expression suggested that I should say no more. It seemed that my presence brought out her shame, so I moved on. There were other experiences that brought snatches of Cavalier Manor to me at Norfolk State. Tommy, thanks for joining, partner. Like today, I was banging a typewriter in a student newspaper office when a fellow student from Cavalier Manor told me the news. "Did you hear about Scooby D, man? What happened?" "He's dead." "Dead? Scoob?" The word on the wires was that Scooby had been depressed since learning he was terminally ill. He'd vowed to his wife that if he couldn't have her, nobody would. He took his small children to a neighbor's house, shot his wife dead. Some folks said that it was an accident, then shot himself in the head. I lost a lot more respect for Scoob after hearing about what he had done. I already figured out that he didn't really understand what manhood was all about, but when he killed his wife like she was a piece of property, it confirmed that he wasn't half the man everybody thought he was. The warriors in the neighborhood were particularly stunned. We grown up believing that Scoob was so hard that he was devoid of any kind of emotion that could lead him to freak out like that. We thought he had defied life's problems and given the world the middle finger. Now he was dead at the age of 28. Technology, thanks for joining, Tech. Surprisingly, the local newspaper published a brief story about Scoob. In 1979, it was rare for a black person in Norfolk or Portsmouth to get any kind of press. It was an implicit acknowledgement that even white folks knew this guy's life had some large meaning to some of us. Even so, the article revealed how little the reporter knew about the real story of Scooby D and its impact on the dudes in our neighborhood. The crowded funeral befitted someone of Scoob Street nature. I heard that practically every hood in Portsmouth went to see him put away. I stayed home and paid private homage to Scooby D. For a long time, he was our most perverted, enduring manhood symbol, our own Black John Wayne. On the day of the funeral, I thought about the irony of how Scoob's life ended. Nobody could take him out, so he did it himself. Okay. Chapter 26, Islam. In one of those bizarre coincidences that seemed to follow me around in life, I found when I got to Norfolk State that Dr. Naeem Akbar, the Muslim psychologist, whose ideas on human development I had studied at St. Bride's, was teaching in the school psychology department. So my first order of business was to go to meet this man, whose book, Natural Psychology of Human Transformation, had helped me view myself in a different light. We hit it off right from the start. Warm and sharp, he invited me to take a graduate course called African Psychology that he planned to teach in the fall. After his conversation to conversion to Islam in 1970, Dr. Akbar had become a firebrand spokesman for the American Muslim mission. He blended his training of psychologist and the theology of Islam to draft some of his ideas about the process of human development. The cat was so heavy that some of his students from Morehouse College in Atlanta, where he taught before coming to Norfolk, had followed him to NSU. In the African psychology class, Naeem, as we called him, introduced us to a whole body of literature and black scholars unheard of in mainstream thought. Mainstream. We studied African cultures and religions and talked about ancestors, traditional belief that God is present in all things. Right? We talked about how the belief fostered our ancestors' sense of connectedness to all things in creation, animals, plant life, and other human beings. And we contrasted this perspective to the white people in America, who Naeem said were guided by a worldview in which they see themselves as separate from and superior to the rest of creation. That's what enabled them to go into forests and desecrate whole sections of trees for money, or kill animals in mass for stylish furs, or to conquer other people of the world everywhere they come in contact with them. He said, as long as they see themselves as being separate and disconnected from other people, they'll feel no obligation to treat them as human beings. Naeem didn't teach that white people were evil, but he interpreted their behavior in a way that helped us better understand the roots and nature of racism. He told us that white folks, adhering to the value system of the West, placed a premium on conquering people and developing objects. He said that while that way of thinking has led to many technological advances that have made the United States the most powerful nation in the world, it has virtually ignored advancements in human development and created a powerful country of dangerous, underdeveloped, primitive human beings. As an example, he talked about the flaws of standardized tests that measure the quantities of facts but can't measure such things as creativity and potential. By contrast, he said, look at African Americans who generally don't score high on culturally biased standardized tests. We are the same people who, as slaves, took leftover trash and testings that white folks gave us from the hog and turned it into delicacy, chitlins. I hate that shit. We are the same people who took our hard time as slaves and created from it music, the blues and jazz of the world loves. Those kind of things are also a form of intelligence. But white people don't place much value on that kind of creative intelligence. That helped me understand why so many white folks walk around thinking they know every goddamn thing, and why many blacks are so psyched out with deep-rooted complexes about what they think they don't know. I never did well on standardized tests in school. That stuff bored me stiff. I'd answer questions till I got tired, then lay my head on the desk. Since I never scored high on those tests, I never thought I had much on the ball. Naeem's and the ideas about intelligence also made me think about the cats I came up with on the block. Dudes who never finished schools, but in their own way were smart as hell. I thought about drug dealers like my old stick man Shell Shock. Given their business skills, I'm sure they could run any corporation in America if given a chance, but they would never get the opportunity to do anything like that because they weren't considered smart by white folk standards. Naeem tossed out another idea that was foreign to Western thought. He said that sensitivity is a form of intelligence. Ew, that's tough. This is a radical concept considering that most folks in our society especially men, consider generally view sensitivity as a weakness. And it suggested to me that maybe women who are clearly more compassionate and sensitive than men are more highly developed human beings and therefore more intelligent. That would be true if eugenics is true, but that's not necessarily true. The class I took under Naeem was one of those rare experiences from which students come out forever changed. Years later, when I went into the system, the stuff Naeem laid on me helped me combat the psychological assault by whites who constantly question black folks' intelligence. I mean, constantly. They will undermine it, take the long route, destroy everything just to find out that, man, maybe he did know. One of my friends told me, Mom, one of my worst mistakes with work is I make it look easy. And then other people think they can do it too. Largely because of Naeem's influence, I did in the free world what I hadn't done in prison. In 1979, I joined the American Muslim Mission. It was a change that had been coming for a long time. Islam seemed to address my nagging need to deal with my spiritual self and to worship in a faith that was not racially offensive to me. It got on my nerves every time I walked into a black Christian church and saw huge pictures of long hair, bearded Caucasian who was supposed to be Jesus. It let me know from Jump Street that those preachers were messing up black folks' head even more than they had already messed up. Without being aware, many black Christian preachers were promoting the notion of white supremacy, right along with white folks. The Muslims, on the other hand, were serious about prohibiting pictures and images of God or prophets in any race. I was also drawn by the Islamic idea that you can see evidence of the Creator by studying the wonders of creation. When I learned Muslim lessons about the interconnectedness of nature and mankind, I could see it clearly. There is an order to life, and man must find a way to get in harmony with that order. But I also like the Muslims for non-religious reasons. They were survivors. Beyond some traditional civil rights groups such as the NAACP, the Urban League, the Muslims were one of the few black organizations who had survived destruction by the whites during the 1960s and 70s. And they were realists. They recognized early on that all the civil rights begging and marching that black folks had done had produced very limited results for the masses of blacks. Unlike some of those mainstream traditional black groups that kept plodding ahead, running into brick walls trying to gain acceptance into the system, the Muslims were willing to do something that black folks in general have had a hard time doing: change direction and try something different. That's the art of letting go. That's why we talk about it. We'll be struggling to let go Tuesday nights. We're doing prompts on that'll help us recognize our perspective on letting go. Also, I saw that Muslims were committed to self-help and establishing black institutions. They went out in the communities and tried to do something to improve black people's plight. They sought ways to build their own schools so that their children wouldn't be brainwashed, and to build their own businesses to create employment and wealth that would benefit blacks. All of that appealed to me. It annoyed the hell out of me that even after the death in 1975 of Elijah Muhammad, the one-time leader of the Nation of Islam, when his son began steering the group away from hatred of whites and separatist beliefs, the media continued to predict the Muslims as militant separatists because of their emphasis on self-help and black empowerment. Every ethnic group in the United States has maintained some of its own religious, educational, and business institutions to preserve what it is about. And that's all the Muslims have sought to do. Kirk, thanks for joining. Book club, we just read. Sit back, put some headphones on, enjoy. The crazy thing was, no group of people in this country has been more separatist than the white Americans. They did all they could to keep blacks out of their institution, then turned around and accused the Muslims of being separatists simply because they stopped fighting to get in. It all struck me as deeply insane. And in joining the Muslims, I wanted to get as far away from American insanity as I could. I studied the Holy Quran and learned to speak some Arabic, and in keeping with the faith, prayed 5 times a day. It was tough trying to get used to praying 5 times a day. It seemed sometimes that I prayed more than I did anything else, but there was value in it. During the course of the day, you can become unglued. I said that. I said that earlier too. I was like, it makes sense. It's a great grounding exercise. By praying 5 times a day, you can bring it all back together. Refocus on your purpose and your goals. My family, I'm sure, saw my devotion to Islam as a part of some strange new black power trip. That's what my mama did when I started just learning Muslim lessons. What you did? Oh my God, she was so offended when I stopped eating pork. Jesus Christ, oh my God, she was so offended. But nobody objected. Nobody said anything that indicated they didn't like what I was trying to be and do. My brothers were cool about it, and so were my parents. Mama was down for anything that kept me off the streets and out of the joint. She sort of watched me quietly and asked questions about Islam every now and then. It was about the same with the fellas I once hung with. We were living such different lives that I seldom saw them. Shell Shocked had stopped dealing drugs and gotten a job at the shipyard. Bimbo was working for the railroad. Shane was in and out of jail, and Frog and Lep and the others were getting knocked around by life in various ways. Whenever I did happen to run into one of the boys from the old days, I could tell they were curious and puzzled, especially if I wore a Muslim kufi on my head. I'm sure they dismissed it as me being involved in some black shit. That's what a lot of folks said when somebody they knew got involved in efforts to work for their people or to raise their consciousness. They do. They think you, oh my God. He done gone off into that black shit now. He wearing clothes like he think he African or something. Frankly, I didn't care what anybody thought. I knew what I knew, and I believed that black shit was helping me become a better person. So I kept pressing forward. For a while, my life, including work, revolved around the Islamic principles that I studied. I got a part-time gig working with Wasul, the guy at St. Bart's who had first explained Islam to me. He was now supervising the print shop in Norfolk. In my second year in Norfolk State, I went to school full-time days and worked nights, often studying on the job while the press ran. It felt good working for a black man, even though white folks owned the place. The Muslim emphasized the importance of marriage. Right away, when a guy joins the group, veteran brothers are at the masjid and the local mosque point out available sisters for the man to inspect. I understood the reasons for the emphasis on marriage, but I thought they were a little too pushy about it. They talked about choosing a wife like it was casual as picking fruit. Yvette joined the Muslims shortly after I did. I suspected that she joined because of me, but she insisted that she was attracted to Islam for reasons of her own. Her joining didn't hurt our relationship, that's for sure. We grew closer and hung tighter after that. After seeing Yvette and me leave the masjid together one day, a respected Muslim elder pulled me aside and said, "Brother, you know we don't believe in dated unchaperoned. Are you going to marry that sister?" I looked at him and cracked a defiant smile and said, "I have no intentions of getting married. I don't know if we're compatible enough to spend the rest of our lives together." The elder said that's the purpose of marriage. It gives you a lifetime to get acquainted. He said that if we both submitted to the will of Allah, compatibility will come naturally, and that is true. If you are on the same page, you don't have to worry about compatibility. You will be in harmony with each other because you will both be submitting to the will of God. In short, the cat was telling me that Yvette and I couldn't keep hanging tight and sleeping together and remain active in the Muslim community. I shrugged off the elder's remarks and went on my way. But other guys made similar comments to me. Yvette told me the Muslim women were laying the pressure on her too. I promised myself once that I would never get married unless I was madly in love. Although I cared for Yvette a lot, I wasn't in love with her. But after hearing all those remarks about marriage and seeing Muslims converts hooking up like there was nothing to it, I began to reconsider my position. I thought, maybe I can grow into this thing. Maybe I can learn to love Yvette. In an act of faith and affection for Yvette, I asked her to marry me. Naeem performed the wedding ceremony in the summer of 1979. Oh man, the story takes an interesting turn after here. I learned valuable lessons through his marriage from this story. Standing there beside Yvette during the ceremony, I listened to Naeem preach about the virtues of marriage and wondered what the hell I was getting into. I thought about how little over a year after getting out of the joint, my life had changed dramatically. I'd entered college, joined the religious groups, and was now getting hooked up, as we said on the block. It was scary and exciting at the same time. It was much like me living on the edge, trying to figure out what time it was. But things fall apart. It's like that one tiny piece of a thread that you pull in the shirt thinking it will snap. And it stays together, unraveling until you look up and the whole shirt is coming to pieces. That's how the next 2 years often seemed to me, even as my life was changing in ways I couldn't quite see. It happened with Islam, and it happened again in my personal life. The first blow came when Naeem left. He accepted a teaching job at Florida State University in Tallahassee. While he was at Norfolk State, those of us in this class took our interactions beyond the classroom. We had monthly potluck dinners and Scrabble games and held impassioned rap sessions about the impact of current events on blacks. It was just like the evening courtyard discussions at Southampton, but with women added into the mix. When Naeem left, the thread that had held our intellectual potluck group together promptly fell apart. The members of our group didn't even think about getting together anymore after that. Naeem was also missed at Masjid. The excitement generated by his present and electrifying speeches and the optimism I felt about the wonderful things we could accomplish with him here leveled off. After Naeem's departure, minor complaints I had about the Muslims seemed to magnify. In my view, some of their actions contradicted their aims. For sure. That's exactly why I did not subscribe to the religion. They talked about building black institutions, but many of the men were slow to develop educational skills and get the knowledge required to carry it out. I thought we needed to focus more on large-scale economic projects, but a lot of the Muslim men seemed unable to get beyond nickel and diamond. I swear, when I was coming up, it was bootleg movies and mixtapes and bean pies and oils. Selling jewelry, fruit, and bean pies on the street. When I questioned some of the Muslims about such contradictions, they played a lot of the same head games that Christians play. If you question things, they try to make you feel like that you lack faith. If you don't go completely along with the program, they say you're not a true believer. Over time, I began to look around and examine the individual lives of the people, and many were uneducated and poor. and it seemed they would stay that way. Few, it seemed, really understood the system they wanted to replace. That's when I began to wonder if the dream of nation building was just that, a lofty but unreachable dream. There were also other things about the Muslims that bothered me, mainly their fanatical obsession with avoiding pork. I stopped eating pork in the penitentiary before I even thought about becoming Muslim, but I thought some of them took that pork thing much too far. Before they ate anything packaged, they carefully read the label to see if contents had pork in it or made from pork products. That was okay, but it annoyed me that some of them were much more careful about what went into their bodies than what they allowed into their minds. Interesting, because I saw that a lot too. One day, a group of brothers came to my house. I offered them something to eat. While we were standing in the kitchen, one dude glanced in my cabinet and saw something they said might have been cooked in some pork product. Say, brother, don't you know that this stuff has some hog in it? I said, nah, man. To tell you the truth, I hadn't noticed. He said, yeah, it does. And this too. By that time, he had his head sticking inside my cabinet, inspecting all my food. He even started reading the ingredients list on the side of the box of Rice Krispies. That did it for me. I was seething, pissed off, not so much because he pointed things out, but because of a larger issue that had kept nagging me. How could they be so meticulous about something as trivial as what has or has not been cooked in pork and overlook more important matters such as their need to get their overall educational act together? That was a major blind spot I just couldn't abide. I was also uncomfortable with the role of women in the Islamic faith. That's also interesting. Women were relegated to the role of mother, cook, and all that traditional stuff while the leadership positions were held by men. That ran against the grain of all thinking and reading I'd done in prison to try to free myself from the sexism that had led me to be so abusive to women before. I didn't want a subservient woman. Yet, thunder? Yet I joined a faith where people had different ideas about equality. While the men had less stringent dress codes, the Muslim women were required to wear long, flowing garb, even in the hottest weather, to ensure that no man besides their husband saw their legs, arms, and hair. The idea was that by covering themselves, they would not tempt men. I understood the logic, but was a logic that relieved men of any burden of learning to control themselves. Yvette quietly struggled with such issues too. I asked her one day, aren't you tired of wearing that headpiece all the time? She said, yeah, it's beginning to ruin my hair. I said, the men don't have to cover their heads. From now on, you don't have to wear that headpiece. If anybody says anything about it, you got my support. That, I think, marked my first outward move toward break from the Muslims. I become disillusioned and had begun to feel more confined with them than free. My attendance had dropped off gradually. Eventually, I stopped going altogether. After we got married, Yvette and I moved into a low-income neighborhood in Norfolk. The small one-bedroom apartment was crawling with roaches. It was a dump, really, but it was all we could afford. For a short while, married life seemed like it might agree with us. We got along okay, but the vibes were really bad between her mother and me. Yvette's mom made no secret of her wish that her daughter would have married her former boyfriend. Beyond that, I didn't know why she didn't like me. I resented that she could dislike me without getting to know me. That's how white folks treat blacks. I wasn't about to accept that. Whenever I went with Yvette to her mother's house, her mother would act aloof towards me. Yvette would always tell me things, silly, petty stuff that her mother would say about me. I guess Yvette wanted me to try to win her mother over, but I wasn't into brown nosing. I didn't back down from her mother's hostility. I told Yvette one day, your mama can go straight to hell. That didn't help our relationship at all. But that wasn't the worst of it. One of the biggest problems we had in our marriage stemmed from Yvette's job. She worked with the General Accountant Office with all its government agencies. It turned out that there were white men on her job who gave her hell, criticizing her Muslim faith and finding fault in everything she did. He made her feel that no matter how good she was not as qualified as him, even though they both held accounting degrees. I tried to coach her, but Yvette couldn't muster the will and anger to fight him back. She was one of those peaceful souls who hated conflict. Generally, that was one of the attributes I found appealing in her. But when it came to dealing with white folks, it seemed like a liability. I told her white folks will eat you alive if you don't fight back. They love a black person who let them get away with their crazy shit. She still wouldn't fight back. That white man hounded her at work, and she brought her frustrations home to me. Sometimes Yvette came home from work somber and beaten down. She slipped into a month-long depressions and would mope around the house, not saying much of anything. She'd cry at night and tell me how she was sure she knew how to perform her job. It was pitiful. It made me mad that I thought a couple of times about going up to her job and confronting the cracker. But every time I thought about it, I didn't feel in control. I felt that if that white man said the wrong thing to me, I'd do something I'd regret. Looking back, I think there was more to Yvette's unwillingness to fight than hate and confrontation. I think that white man tapped into some racial self-doubt that she hadn't overcome. It was as if on some level, she believed she was inferior and assumed that the white man must have been right about her incompetence. She said things that let me know she was giving in. Maybe I should quit my job and go back to school for a master's degree. She didn't need another degree. She needed to find an acceptable way to put a foot up that white man's behind, but she didn't, and he beat her down. I felt helpless standing on the sideline watching my wife being psychologically ripped apart. I agonized over the matter and tried repeatedly to help her overcome it, and even recommended that she get counseling. She wouldn't go. She couldn't get past what she thought was the stigma, the idea that counseling is for crazy people. Eventually, her prolonged depression began to drag us both down. We began fighting over her unwillingness to fight back on other fronts. We separated, and in 1981, got a quiet, uncontested divorce. All right, family, we'll start next week there on chapter 27. Man, I don't know what to do. I wouldn't know what that man to tell him to do. He tried his best to help his wife. But anyway, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining me. I definitely appreciate your support as always. If don't forget, we get a show. We got shows on Tuesday, which is our show all about healing. And we are actually just doing prompts, answering questions so we can get an understanding on our standing or how we manage letting go. If we can't catch you Tuesday, I hope to see you back here next Thursday as we continue reading Makes Me Wanna Holla by Nathan McCall. Again, I appreciate your time, your energy. Much gratitude to your family. And from my soul to yours, peace, family.